Hey team.
I'm Rowan.
I'm Rob.
And today I would like to talk about a little piece of my history.
Story time.
So I used to live a different place for like a year and then go back to this particular area we're currently in, and I would go back out into the world for about a year and go someplace else, and sometimes that was like entirely different states.
Are you talking about your pattern of trying to leave New York?
Yeah. When eventually just kind of failing. New York is good. I like it here. I'm just saying. But I was in Massachusetts for a year, and I was in other areas of New York for a year at a time each, and just all over the place. And one year, I was just on the other side of the country, in the desert.
You went to the desert.
And it had this, like, really intense drug culture. Like, everybody was very, very casual, and everybody was high all of the time. Sometimes, like, on things that I was unfamiliar with. And,
Was it just, like, hippies? Like, oh, don't worry sort of thing?
Some of them were hippies. Some of them were scarier. And I did go into this situation, I'll admit, a little pre-traumatized. And I didn't really want to be involved with any kind of drugs. I didn't want to use them. And I was afraid of people who did most kinds of drugs. That is true. And yet... I liked this boy, and I wanted him to be able to trust me, since I'd already moved across the country to live with our mutual good friend.
I mean, you phrase it this way. I know very few young women who did not date a man who was regretted very soon afterwards.
Yeah. So I was stuck, and I found myself desperately trying to pretend everything was fine, which is totally healthy. It's not healthy, and you're right that a lot of people do wind up in situations like that. And honestly, it could have been worse, because he didn't want to spend any time with me. So, like, it's not like I was being made to do things I really didn't want to do. I was just kind of, like, ostracized in my own apartment.
It was just heavily suggested that unless you did drugs, you weren't cool.
Yeah, which is very, like, what they tell you is going to happen in PSAs when you're in middle school was actually going on. It was very weird.
They taught us a lot of people would offer us free drugs, and I've had a lot of people try to sell me drugs, but
yeah.
No one's offered me a lot of free drugs.
I was offered many samples. And if I truly understood, like, what it was going to be like before moving, I think I would have gone someplace else, or I would have just stayed home. I had met you right before I left, and maybe I would have just not gone. But
I did tempt you to stay.
Well, you tempted me to stay for a night. You did not imply that you wanted anything more than that.
I think it would have gone similarly.
Well, I mean, now we're married.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize we'd do that. But yeah, a lot of lies were told to get me to go across the country. And in retrospect, it's like, I don't really understand why. Nobody wanted me there. So, I went. And then I learned the lingo in order to not feel like I was going to get killed. I learned all kinds of things about drug dealing. And yeah, I was ostracized in my own apartment, but that was honestly a separate issue. And there were dealers everywhere, and they were all selling to each other. I didn't understand how anyone made any money.
It's how GDP works. You just you just make a lot of transactions. Nothing has to be like done. You just have to keep swapping money back and forth.
Yeah, that's all that was going on. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there like in a Dare t-shirt. Not really, but I felt like I was very, very out of place.
No, if you were in a Dare t-shirt, then you'd fit in the smoking circle. I don't know anyone over the age of 16 in a Dare t-shirt who wasn't high off their balls.
They did tell us so many things about drugs. Oh, and there was an instant where my boyfriend at the time gave a key to the place where he didn't live, where I paid half the rent, to a stranger looking for drugs to buy.
Yeah, they were all kind of dumb.
Yeah, so I was alone in my robe, because why would a random guy come to my home?
And walk in with using the key.
Yeah, and thankfully, like, I wasn't attacked, and the guy just turned out to be incredibly stupid. It wasn't all scary, though. Like, there were some really good people who may have also been just, like, swept up one way or another. Some people were born there. Like, if you were born there, you don't really have much of a choice. And there were some neat dance clubs. I liked dancing.
Oh, dance clubs.
Yeah, one was on a train, and I found my way to an observation area that still had the seats, and I was really happy. I sat and I listened to the faraway music and looked outside, and eventually did hang out with strangers who were also feeling kind of overstimulated, probably for different reasons than me. probably on drugs. And that part didn't involve life-threatening situations and looking right in the face of a police officer while wondering why he wasn't helping me. That happened once.
You have several stories about police officers not helping you, and you were obviously in distress.
Yeah. Not great.
Because they also used to bring you back to your home when you ran away. After listening to why you ran away, they'd be like, that's nice, let's bring you back.
Yeah, it'd be like the same police officers who were there previously. They knew where I was going from, and they were just like, drop you back off. But yeah, in this case, the cop came to the door, and I was also in my robe that day. I liked that robe. And I figured he either couldn't tell if I was also a dealer and maybe didn't want to risk ruining my life for nothing, so just didn't get involved, or he was also on drugs, which was totally possible.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I wasn't safe where I was renting. I wasn't safe kind of anywhere, except maybe that one area on the train. There wasn't a safe place to exist. So, let's talk about the super weird experience that probably happens all the time. There was a dance club. Said, I like dance clubs. And it was a temporary setup situation in a hotel.
Oh, okay.
And downstairs there was a room with space enough to dance, and there was a stage area for a DJ, and it was actually somebody I knew was DJing. Someone I probably should have hit on. But I was technically in a relationship with a guy who ignored me. Like, I could have had different boyfriends there, but whatever. I was good. I was a nice person. And there were some tables and chairs, and in the back was the bar area. So yeah, and I was pretty content sitting and listening to the music and watching people get their groove on. And every now and then, I'd either get up to dance, or a friend would drag me up to dance. And in retrospect, it was one of the few times in my adult life I actually had more lady friends around than dudes. They were mostly high. But, that's interesting.
They were there.
They were there. And I did manage to keep a few of them as friends since. A couple of them, were legitimately good people.
Yeah.
In any case, at this hotel club situation, I at some point wandered off to get some air, possibly to find a friend of mine. I don't actually remember. I wandered off. And I wound up in a really classy hall area that had a grand piano, some couches, and these two really strange people. And I called them the Maximoff drug twins.
Oh, okay.
And I called them that because I don't know if they were brother and sister, or dating, or just good friends, or business partners. And the fact that I can't tell is a little funky on some level.
They were close in a way that was, undefined.
Yeah. And the guy was vibrating levels of hyper, while she was just super weird and kept, giving me weird looks, like she was gonna cast a spell on me.
See the Maximoff now.
Yeah. And I got cornered. As I do.
Did they like your vibe spotting you from across the bar?
It was weird. And eventually, I did wind up sitting on a couch with them, as though we were having, a normal conversation. We were not. We were not having a normal conversation. They offered me, a million types of drugs and different ways to get high, all of which I declined, some of which I had no idea what the hell it even was. And nothing was physically on them because they weren't that stupid, but they were more than willing to bring me somewhere to do it. Declined that for 1,000 reasons. Secondary location, no thank you. Didn't want to die. And when they learned that I just wasn't interested in not only going to a random house, but also just not interested in getting high at all, ever, they had, amazing questions. First, they naturally assumed I was either loyal to competition, or that I was competition myself. And when that wasn't the case, they wanted to know, how did I have fun? And I explained that I enjoy many things. And
there's a certain type of person that gets so far into drug culture they can't imagine what any moment of life is like without drugs being involved.
Yeah, it was like people at parties who don't know how they can have fun without being drunk.
Yeah.
It's no, you can. It's totally possible. Play a board game.
They forgot how.
Yeah. They lost their whimsy. And I did also mention that I avoid mind-altering substances for reasons attached to my childhood, but also because I have bad reactions to things anyway. Ask me about the nitrous. And I am deeply mentally ill.
I've had a similar conversation. Someone was very desperate to get me to do LSD with everybody. And I was just like, I do not take hallucinogens. My brain is weird enough.
Yeah.
That's when I was unmedicated. So
yeah,
it was a struggle to do my tasks. And I didn't want to throw additional, I don't know if this is real, on top of that.
Yeah. No, I get paranoid too easy. And upon learning that I am prone to panic attacks, and that I used to have all kinds of hallucinations, even as a kid, they became, mesmerized by me. I felt like I had become the drug.
The Maximoff twins were like, this one's weird.
Yeah. And I honestly don't remember how I got out of there. I probably feigned having to go to the bathroom and then snooked back to the dancing room area. I remember my friends not even noticing I was gone so long. But, you know, like I said, they were probably on drugs.
When you said I was over there talking to those people, they were gone.
You know?
Then you noticed a photo from the hotel from a party in the 20s.
Yep. I met a lot of really interesting people, and sometimes interesting is used as not a nice word.
And they were all on drugs.
They were really all on drugs. Sometimes in a dangerous way, like don't do drugs while doing your job, especially if your job is, say, an emergency professional, you know, medical professional.
Yeah.
There were a lot of medical professionals on drugs in that area. Anyway, I'm not saying, like, don't do drugs, kids. I'm saying, you know, just be a little bit responsible. Also, don't make anybody else try when they don't want to.
This is like the third video where the ending is like, maybe do drugs, but in moderation.
And only if you want to. Consent is king. Rock on.
Rock on.